Hey now! Hi everybody, welcome to Scott Fox After 9. I apologize, but this episode is going to be a little bit shorter. I was driving to my radio show this morning and I had car troubles. My exhaust pipe just detached from the car. Just cracked right off of whatever the exhaust pipe goes into. And I apologize because I don't know a heck of a lot about the mechanics of an automobile. So I've got a lot of scrambling around to do today to get that fixed up, but I didn't want to leave you without an episode, so I'm going to do this, but it's going to be a little bit more express than usual. And of course, here in Scott Fox After 9, this is where I bring you not just the news that you didn't see on the actual news, I give you a lot more context and clarity. Today is going to be very focused. Today, I've got comments from Ontario Premier Doug Ford, and today I'm going to take you to Davos, where the World Economic Forum is happening, and you're going to hear a little bit from President Trump. But here's the thing. As I record, he hasn't given his big speech to the WEF yet. That's going to be a major focus of tomorrow's episode, and I don't know what Trump's going to say, but I have a feeling Greenland is going to come up. He's going to Europe to tell Greenland he wants Greenland. So it's going to be interesting. Whatever comes out of his mouth today, I'm going to have that covered for you tomorrow. Today, let's get you set up for it. We're going to start off with yesterday at Queen's Park. That is the Ontario Legislature. This is Ontario Premier Doug Ford.
I just want to start off with, obviously, the elephant in the room, and that's the deal with China. I think I've expressed the way I feel, that number one, true partnership is communicating with myself or other premiers if it affects their economy, and I feel it's just a terrible deal. It's a terrible deal for the auto workers that aren't in the Brampton plant, aren't in the Oshawa plant, the Ingersoll plant, and we need to build our auto sector here domestically in Ontario, not by foreign governments. They say it's 3%. It's actually, if you look at the EV sales, it's more like 33%. And we've seen this around the world, no matter if it's Germany having to close down 2 Volkswagen plants or Brazil, that they said it started at 3%, now it's 37%. I have concerns. That they're undercutting our hard-working auto workers and uniform members. They pay their people probably $6 an hour over at the auto plants in China with unfair labor practices, as we're upholding proper labor practices and making sure we build the cars with clean, green steel. And I just want more communication, as anyone would. This isn't about pitting one province against the other. It's not pitting one sector versus the other. I'm happy as punch for my colleagues out west when it comes to canola oil, or our friends out in the east about the fisheries. God bless them. That's great. But don't use Ontario and the auto workers here as a pond. Everyone got something except Ontario. All we got is a massive threat of Chinese vehicles that are coming here that are going to hurt every single auto sector worker. And there's over 500,000 people within the sector that are going to be hurt over time. So we're going to focus on making sure that we produce great vehicles here. China will never, ever, and this will go on record, open up a manufacturing facility, and I'm going to tell you the reason why. To make an assembly plant profitable, you need 200,000 cars manufactured here, and that's 2 shifts going full out, producing a vehicle every minute and a half. And out of that 200,000, they're going to ship 80 to 90% of the cars down to the U.S. And I don't believe that President Trump will accept any vehicles from China being manufactured here. So to say that we're going to bring assembly here from China is just not accurate whatsoever. We have to focus on getting rid of the EV mandate. That's a killer for the sector, and not just keep pushing it down the road, because when they plan investment, they plan 4 or 5 years out where they're going to invest. I'm going to continue working collaboratively with the Prime Minister and all the other premiers. When we get together up in Ottawa, we'll have an honest discussion and find out what we're going to do as a country, as a province, to make sure that our manufacturing, especially in the auto sector, stays strong right across the board. So that's my, that's what I'm saying about the EV sector. I've had an opportunity to speak to the auto sector themselves. They're not happy, to say the least. And we're going to continue working alongside our partners in the auto sectors and especially Unifor. So we're gonna come out of this all right.
Have you spoken with?
Before we get to some of the Q&A, that was Ontario Premier Doug Ford. A longer clip, certainly nothing you saw on the news last night. I wanted you to hear from the Premier because it seems like he's evolved a little bit too. At first, Doug Ford said if China wants to sell their EVs in Canada, they're going to have to set up a shop and build them here and so on and so forth. Now he's saying that's just not going to happen. It couldn't happen because they would need to export a lot of vehicles to the U.S., and the U.S. is likely not going to accept these vehicles, so it wouldn't be profitable. So now we're in a situation where they're never going to manufacture here. They're going to manufacture overseas. It's going to be very cheap. They're going to get shipped over here. Very low tariffs, thanks to the deal that was done between Mark Carney and the Chinese government, and there's really no net gain other than some cheaper electric vehicles for people who want to buy an EV. So what does Ontario get out of this? Because the Premier here is still being very, very on side with the Prime Minister, and I don't understand why. What the Prime Minister did was basically an assault on the Ontario auto sector. And I don't understand why Doug Ford isn't more angry. This is the guy that wants to rip Crown Royal out of the LCBO because they closed down one bottling plant in southwestern Ontario. Yesterday, the Premier spoke at ROMA, that is the Rural Ontario Municipal Association. I played a little bit of that in yesterday's pod, but he did make a comment about the Prime Minister while I was recording that I didn't catch initially. Here's Doug Ford.
Folks, we may have, our differences. Yeah, I'm a little ticked off of the PM, but he's coming over hopefully for a sandwich, maybe a pizza or something. We'll always have the bumps in the road, but at the end of the day, we're going to do what's right for not just Ontario, but for Canada.
Well, how's that working out? I don't understand why Doug Ford isn't more livid. He ran an entire campaign on protecting Ontario, and now this is a serious threat to Ontario and one of our major exports, and the Premier is talking about having Mark Carney over for pizza? Maybe a sandwich? Why isn't he hopping mad like he was at Diageo when they were closing down that bottling plant in southwestern Ontario? It doesn't make any sense to me. The Premier is quite right. The deal that Carney signed was better for the canola farmers, better for seafood harvesters, but it didn't do anything for Ontario. There was nothing in it. Doug Ford is right. Nothing for the people of Ontario. It really kind of seems like Mark Carney sold us out, and Doug Ford doesn't seem all that upset about it. Frankly, I'm trying to understand why.
With the Prime Minister about this?
No,
So,
he is not there.
Is there a plan to speak with him? I mean, you have worked closely with him on other initiatives.
Yeah, I look forward to speaking to him. I think he knows how I feel. It's all about communication. It's all about partnership. And we have to move at a much quicker speed. I think they went out of the gate going really well, and then it kind of slowed down now. So let's get back at making sure that we have approvals for our critical minerals, our manufacturing sectors, reducing the burden of taxation, making ourselves the most competitive jurisdiction in the entire world to attract companies from all over the world. We attracted over $28 billion of investment, creating 56,000 jobs last year alone. But it's a competitive market, and we have to cut the red tape and the regulations. Our strengths are many. No matter if it's the manufacturing sector, life science sector, banking sector. Obviously, when I say manufacturing, it goes right across the board, including the auto sector. So we have to make sure we create that environment and conditions for companies to come in.
What evidence do you have that these Chinese...
Okay, I don't understand. The Premier still hasn't spoken to Mark Carney? Did I hear that right? Still hasn't had a conversation with him, and he's encouraging more dialogue and better communication. Is there anything Mark Carney could have said to Doug Ford that would have made Doug Ford say, okay, go ahead and do the deal for the Chinese EVs? Is there anything the Prime Minister could have said? Is there any scenario where Doug Ford would have agreed to allow these Chinese EVs into the Canadian auto market? Sounds like it's not a matter of communication, because I doubt Doug Ford would have agreed to this. I doubt it, unless Doug wants to correct us. I'll assume he doesn't want these vehicles in our market. The Prime Minister isn't talking to Doug Ford, and Doug Ford isn't even all that angry about it. What happened to protect Ontario? We need a little protection here from this deal that the Prime Minister signed with China.
Chinese EVs would spy on Ontarians or listen to their phone calls. What are you basing that on?
Well, it's very simple. When the Prime Minister and his team are over there, they use burner phones. You're making a deal with a country with burner phones, and Prime Minister did mention when he got elected that the number one country for national security threat is China. And we know when you hook up your phone, they're going to be listening. Simple as that. And anyone who doesn't believe that is very, very naive. So we're going to...
Okay, I mean, Doug Ford's saying it again. These Chinese EVs are not good. They are mobile surveillance machines. That was Doug Ford's exact phrasing. The Prime Minister has now allowed these into our market, and not a lot of pushback here from Doug. He doesn't even seem all that upset about it. Is it possible? Is it possible Protect Ontario is a scam? That it's just a slogan and it doesn't really mean anything? Because nearest I can tell, and Doug Ford is right, Prime Minister Carney did say China is the biggest threat to Canada. Now we've done a deal with them, and Doug Ford isn't pushing back on the Prime Minister. He's encouraging dialogue, saying we'll work it out over a pizza and a sandwich. I want a little more anger here. If this is the clear and present danger that everyone wants us to believe it is, then I need to see a more animated premier, and I need to see some pushback against Ottawa.
By that logic, are you concerned about the Chinese-made phone in your pockets, or your iPhone is made in China? Are you concerned with that?
I'm concerned about cybersecurity and the threat of China. That's what I'm concerned about. So we're going to always make sure that we think twice before we have countries come in here, and we get nothing back. We get absolutely, Ontarians get nothing back but a threat of jobs in the auto sector.
All right. Well, you just heard it from the Premier himself. Ontario gets nothing out of this. Nothing. The Prime Minister didn't consult with the Premier. He still hasn't spoken to him. This apparently is a big threat to our auto sector. The auto sector, according to Doug, is hopping mad, and the Premier himself doesn't seem to match that anger. And again, I just don't understand why, unless Protect Ontario was just a giant scam. You know, the Premier can go on and on about cutting red tape and creating the conditions for business. What's being done about that? He said it needs to go faster. I agree with him. What is he doing to move this along? Because right now, I see press conferences, I hear platitudes, I hear complaints, but I don't hear any actual action unfolding here. He's going to discuss it with the premiers and the Prime Minister when they all get together next week. Fine, good. We need something now here. If this is a threat, as Doug Ford insists it is, I don't understand why he's so calm. It's kind of bizarre.
The Prime Minister himself didn't speak to you about this deal? Who was it that gave you a few hours notice?
Minister LeBlanc.
Are you surprised that it wasn't the Prime Minister himself who gave you
Yeah, I wouldn't say not surprised. I'm disappointed because we had such a great relationship, and I look forward to continuing a great relationship. But it's all about communication and collaboration and partnership. They keep preaching it. Well, at least I know where I stand now.
I think we all know where Doug Ford stands, and it's very low on the list by the sounds of it. The Prime Minister did not give Doug Ford the heads up that this deal was going to be done. Dominic LeBlanc gave Doug Ford the heads up that this was about to happen. What a bizarre turn of events. I thought we were all supposed to be united. I thought this was Team Canada. Those are the cheerleaders insisting that all of us go along with them. I'm not ready to sign on to these Chinese EVs. Sounds like Doug Ford is not ready to sign on to these Chinese EVs, but it also doesn't sound like he's going to do anything about it. I don't understand why. I'm actually shocked here, guys, as I listen to this audio from yesterday. I really cannot understand where Doug Ford is coming from on this one, why there isn't more outrage, why he isn't trying to do something here. You know, probably the best thing for Ontario's auto sector right now is for Doug Ford again to double down on, let's get a deal done with the Americans. That would solve Doug Ford's problem. Mark Carney's not interested in a deal with the Americans. The New World Order, Mark Carney is preparing for it. Mark Carney's been preparing for it for a very long time. This is his shot. He's aligning Canada with China, and it's a deep, deep integration that also involves security and intelligence. If you didn't hear my episode on Sunday, the bonus episode that I put out about the New World Order, I'm getting unbelievable feedback on that one. There's a lot of people who feel I didn't go far enough in explaining the whole conspiracy theory. There's a lot of people who think I could have gone further. I'm not ready to go there. I'm ready to talk about things that I can actually prove or things that add up. And right now, what adds up is Mark Carney is taking Canada to China. And the U.S., I don't think they're going to tolerate it. I still think we could work much better with the Americans. But of course, the Americans have got a whole other set of issues unfolding right now. And the president is on his way to the World Economic Forum. He is going to speak in Davos to the global elites and the leaders of Europe. Before he got on the plane, he did answer some questions about the situation with Greenland. If you didn't hear yesterday's episode, here's my thought on Greenland. I have no problem with Greenland becoming American. In fact, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that would be better for Canada because it would allow the U.S. to adequately defend our continent, especially if an attack comes from over the poles. That's going to be part of the Golden Dome. I think it's great for Canada if the U.S. gets Greenland, but the U.S. can't just annex Greenland. I don't care what Denmark thinks, but I think the Greenlandic people, they need to agree to this. And I think the U.S. is going about this all wrong, making fun of them and their two-dog sled military, telling them, you're going to be American. Greenland is going to be American. Things like that and taunting them. I don't understand why the U.S. isn't trying to make Greenlandic people want to be American. Send some celebrities up there. Do some free concerts. Open a McDonald's. Open up a Walmart. All things that people want and things that they have not been able to get under Denmark's control. Show them that the grass is greener with America. Make them want to be there. Offer them some cash. There's a lot of things the U.S. could do, and they could probably get Greenland. But President Trump is just pissing everybody off, and it's not right.
Hearing the Arctic Russian threats is important to you. Why are you upset about NATO allies thinking that, more seriously in Greenland by holding military exercises?
Well, that wasn't a military. They sent a few people. And they say they sent them not for me, but to guard against Russia. But, NATO's been warning Denmark for about 20 years now, longer than that, 25 years. They've been warning Denmark about the Russian threat. And it's not only Russia, it's also China. So we'll see what happens, but let's put it this way. It's going to be a very interesting Davos.
Okay, President Trump is setting the scene for what should be a great speech later on today. He's on his way to Davos. He's going to do that speech. He's going to meet with some European leaders, and this is probably going to be the catalyst towards Greenland becoming American. They just went about it all wrong, and I just hate the way this is unfolding. And you know what? For the people who don't like Donald Trump is playing right into their hands, giving them all the ammo they need to criticize the president. The idea of Greenland becoming American makes total sense to me. The way he's going about it, he's coming off like a thug and like a bully, and I don't think people like that, generally speaking.
Davos, or what will be your message to the leaders?
Well, I think I have a lot of messages for Davos, but the primary message is how well the United States is doing. And I say it all the time. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country, and now we have the hottest country in the world. I mean, you're beneficiaries, too. If you look, some of you have 401ks. You don't have to tell me your numbers are the best they've ever been. And the stock market's at an all-time high. We are just doing great. So I think the message in Davos, we're leaving, we're going to have an interesting time. We have a lot of meetings schedule, but the message for Davos is how incredible our country is doing.
Okay, the president getting ready to do a speech that I think we've all seen him do before. He's going to talk about how great America's doing, how great tariffs are, how much he's getting done because of tariffs and things like that. I want to hear more. I want to hear more about the New World Order that Mark Carney talked about in China. Obviously, President Trump knows and understands what the New World Order is. I'd like to know a little bit more, and I think by and large, most people would like to hear more about it.
Speaking of a letter that you wrote to Prime Minister
No, I don't care about the Nobel Prize. First of all, a very fine woman felt that I deserved it and really wanted me to have the Nobel Prize, and I appreciate that. If anybody thinks that Norway doesn't control the Nobel Prize, they're just kidding. They have a board, but it's controlled by Norway, and I don't care what Norway says. But I really don't care about that. What I care about is saving lives, and I think I've saved tens of millions of lives.
You know, there's certain things that Trump just loves to talk about. One of them is tariffs and how great America's doing, and the other one is the injustice that he did not win the Nobel Peace Prize. By the way, I'm paraphrasing. I don't necessarily think it was an injustice. I think he was certainly deserving of it, especially when you look at who's gotten the Nobel Peace Prize in the past. But nonetheless, he is going on and on about this. For him to say he doesn't care about the Nobel Prize is just, it's not accurate. I mean, clearly it's on his mind. He talks about it regularly. Since we're doing audio here from the World Economic Forum, let me give you a couple other things that have come out of the forum so far in advance of President Trump's speech. The CEO of a company called BlackRock, very, very, very wealthy company, and the CEO is Larry Fink. He is talking to the people gathered at the World Economic Forum, and I think this is pretty telling. Listen to this.
Many of the people most affected by what we talk about here will never come to this conference. That's the central tension of this forum. Davos is an elite gathering trying to shape a world that belongs to everyone. That is why this year's theme is the spirit of dialogue, because dialogue is the only way a room like this can earn the legitimacy to shape ideas for people who aren't in the room.
I mean, right from the horse's mouth. They're trying to shape opinion because they're trying to influence policy. There's a lot of people who don't really understand what the World Economic Forum is or who they are. They are run by a bunch of globalist elites. And when I say that, I mean billionaires who believe in a one world government. And what they do is they hold this forum, they invite all kinds of influencers in there, and they're constantly trying to recruit politicians to be some of their young global leaders. They bring them in, they wine and dine them, among other things, and then they send them back to their country to implement the agenda of the World Economic Forum. This isn't I'm not making that up. It's not even me taking a stretch. It's actually been admitted. The former leader of the World Economic Forum is Klaus Schwab. He openly bragged about how he had infiltrated Justin Trudeau's cabinet. If you don't believe me, Google it. It's absolutely true that he said that. He infiltrated the Canadian government. So World Economic Forum policies, we've been trying to implement them in Canada for a long time, but they're real quiet about it because they know a lot of folks have heard about the World Economic Forum and they don't like what they've heard so far. Let's hear a little bit more about this gathering now that they've acknowledged they're trying to shape opinions. This is the World Economic Forum president.
It's a moment of uncertainty, but also possibility. Not a moment to retreat, but a moment to rise. The World Economic Forum is not about responding to current events. It's about orchestrating the right conditions that enable us to move forward.
And would those conditions be things like pandemics? Would they be things like chaos from open borders and lawless societies? Well, he didn't say it. But slowly, hopefully you're hearing a pattern here in some of this audio that I'm playing. That's their goal. That's what they do. They've got a vision for a one world government. And by and large, there's no reason to think that agenda wasn't actively being implemented until Donald Trump came along and got in the way. And he's pulling America back. He doesn't want any part of this one world government. He is just going to control the Western Hemisphere. When the leader of the World Economic Forum or the president of the World Economic Forum says, we don't react, he means he's not reacting to what Donald Trump is doing. He's just going to try and figure out how to get to his goal a different way, even though Donald Trump is obstructing what they're doing. Let's go back to the BlackRock CEO, Larry Fink. Let's talk about the popularity, the influence of the World Economic Forum. Listen to Larry here.
We believe that outside the United Nations, this is the largest gathering of global leadership of the post-COVID period of time. For many people, this meeting feels out of step with the moment. We hear all about the elites. And how does that play out in an age of populism? How does an established institution make a difference in an era of deep institutional mistrust? And there's some truth to the critique. I believe in this forum for a long time. I certainly wouldn't be leading this if I didn't believe that we can change and make the world better. But it's also obvious that the world now places far less trust in us to help shape what comes next. If the World Economic Forum is going to be useful going forward, it has to regain that trust.
I'm going to suggest they never had the trust in the first place. Most people didn't know what they were up to. They want a one world government where the world's health decisions are made by the World Health Organization, not here in our country or in sovereign countries where the World Health Organization is making everyone's decisions. They decide when we go into lockdown. They decide what boosters we need and what vaccinations we need. They want the World Monetary Fund to basically be the global bank that regulates all trading. We don't want that because it's a massive compromise on our sovereignty. We want made in Canada solutions and decisions here. We don't need a global transnational body deciding what happens in Canada. That's part of what they were up to at the World Economic Forum. There's Larry fully admitting people don't like us right now. People are a little skeptical. They've heard a lot about the World Economic Forum, and now we need to pivot. That's what he's saying. Now, on another vein, there's something else that got said. This was by Ursula von der Leyen. She is the leader of the European Union. She made an interesting comment about the US dollar and gold and the global order. This kind of goes back to the episode that I published over the holidays about Bitcoin and crypto. Listen to Ursula here.
1971 was the year of the so-called Nixon shock. And the decision to delink the US dollar from gold. In an instant, the foundations of the Bretton Woods system and the entire global economic order set up after the war effectively collapsed. But it also had two major effects. It inadvertently created the conditions for what would become a truly global order. And it provided a sharp lesson for Europe and on the need to strengthen its economic and political power. It was a warning to reduce our dependencies, in this case, on a foreign currency. The world may be very different today, without any question, but I believe the lesson is very much the same. That geopolitical shocks can and must serve as an opportunity for Europe.
I think it's really interesting that Ursula von der Leyen there at the World Economic Forum is now going to talk about the history of money and the U.S. delinking their currency from gold. Talking about a new global order. Friends, something big is coming, and I don't fully understand the economic impacts. I really don't. I get the geopolitical aspect of it, but I don't understand the money. I also don't quite understand where Bitcoin and cryptocurrency comes into this, if it has anything to do with it at all. You've likely heard rumors that Donald Trump is going to do something like fold all of America's debt into a cryptocurrency and devalue it so that the debt is worthless and America is debt-free. Could that work? Would that work? Does Ursula know it, and that's why she's getting that out there? It wasn't an accident. It wasn't unintentional that she mentioned that at the World Economic Forum. There's still a lot that we're working through here. This conference is happening now as I record. There is going to be a lot that comes out of it over the next couple of days, and I will, right here, the best I can, and as neutral as I can, give you the facts, give you the audio, and let you make up your own mind, because that's something the mainstream media does not do. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. If you like what you hear when you hear an episode of Scott Fox After 9, I'd appreciate the hell out of you if you would hit that share button and share it to your network as well, and help me continue to grow this podcast every single day. I am going to bring you what you didn't see on the news with a lot more context and a lot more clarity. Friends, Tomorrow's episode is going to be a good one. We're going to be talking about whatever Donald Trump is talking about and whatever Mark Carney is talking about at the World Economic Forum. I'll see you right back here in less than 24 hours. Apologies for the shorter episode today, but sometimes life gets in the way and I had car problems. But looks like those are resolved now, and I will see you in less than 24 hours.